Hi everyone, and thank you all for tuning into this. This is a new podcast series I'm doing called Get Chatty with Matty, and the idea behind it is I'm going to be talking to some content creators, some YouTube channel owners, some everyday people, just having a general chat really. And today's first guest is someone who really glad to have on, and his name is Sam Fisher from Sam Fisher Data Drops. So hi Sam, how you doing?
I'm excited to be here. I'm a bit nervous, but here we go.
Don't be nervous, mate. It's just going to be a chat. And who knows? Hopefully this takes off. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I've got quite a few guests lined up. I wanted you to be the first one, and I'm going to tell you why in a moment, actually. But,
I'm honoured.
oh, thanks, mate. But what I'm going to do on every single one of these is, for every guest, I'm going to give them the same 3 questions, just as a bit of an icebreaker, just to soften it up, and then we'll just have a chinwag and chat, mate. So I know you've already been sent the questions because, in fairness, everybody who comes on after would have seen this vid, so they'll know what the questions are. But what I'll do is I'll ask you them questions now, Sam, and then we'll get back to you, do a bit of an introduction on what you've done, what you're up to, and we'll just start chatting, mate, if that's okay. So, question 1, Sam. What makes you get excited?
I think when I'm learning something new, you know what I mean? Something that really fascinates me, and start making just that little breakthrough, that first little breakthrough, and it's like, you just know you're going to go headlong, you know what I mean, into it. I think that really, we've just had that recently, really. One of the lads on the page, one of the researchers, he found something the other day. It's fantastic, really is. So yeah, we're storming on with that at the moment. So, learning something new, that gets me excited.
Awesome. I like that answer. What gives you hope, Sam?
2 things. Probably my son. And that that point when you're trying to wake someone up and it just clicks. Yeah. And you could just see it in their eyes, just that realization. It's like, got you. That's it. There's no turning back now. Yeah, they cross that point of no return. Blinkers are off, lights hit their eyes, and that's it. They're off then. Yeah, that's probably, that gives me hope.
That gives you hope. Awesome. And the final one of the icebreaker, mate, is what, in Sam Fisher's eyes, is the best thing about life?
I don't know. Up until a few years ago, I would have said sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but kids are the best thing, I think. Yeah, I know it sounds trite and corny and cheesy, but yeah, kids are probably the best thing about life.
I've got to agree with you, mate. And I like those 3 answers, I really do. And I am definitely going to be asking every single guest, if this takes off, I'm going to be asking every single guest the same 3 questions, just as a softener and icebreaker. But I wanted to start this now with the reason. One of the reasons I wanted you on this first one was because you were actually one of the first people that reached out to me. I don't know whether you remember, ages and ages ago on one of my vids, and said, I'd really like to do a vid with you.
Yeah.
Probably well over a year ago.
Yeah. More than that, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted you on as well, because you're one of the first people that reached out to me. But if I give you a bit of an intro here, Sam, because on your channels, the info that you produce, give out, research for people, and it covers so many subjects. I mean, my question to you is, how do you do it? Because there's a lot of info in there. How do you do it?
Well, I've done it for over 30 years. You know what I mean? It's been a very long sort of process. I'm still learning, but yeah, I think it's just information that I've gathered over time, and I've just got myself into a routine of when I'm looking into something, it'll be little stages, and I'll pop from one subject to the other, just go where the evidence takes me. So that's how I do it, really. I can't really explain it. It's just something you build up over time, I think. Yeah.
it's such a wide amount of info, though, Sam, that you're covering. I mean, like, from your channel, you've covered corruption, ancient history, you've covered aliens, you've covered even more corruption that goes on. That, you know, Sam, it would be hard to put you into a box and say this is what Sam researches, because you've covered everything, and the detail you go into is phenomenal, mate. It really is, and so it's not just how it's. You know,
yeah,
that's for sure.
I think it looks kind of sort of varied, and you know, it kind of looks like I'm looking into different subjects, but in a way I'm not, if you get what I mean. At every single point, like you'll get to a point in each subject and you'll find that it ties in with something you've been looking at in a separate subject. So say like ghosts or aliens or something like that. Both of them are interlinked, yeah. And then that'll link into the secret societies, or it'll link into religion or the ancient history, and it keeps on going like that. Like I said, I'll just follow the evidence to see where it takes me, and it takes me a lot of the time over a broad range of different topics, you know. But it's the tying it all together, and you just see bits slotting in all the time. Yeah, I describe it a bit like you're going around in circles. You'll start off with the paranormal, and you'll go all the way up to the power structure, and then you'll be back round to the paranormal again. But this time you'll have a different key to a different door. They'll take you further in, if you get what I mean. And each time you go around, you get further and further in as you go along. So it's a bit like concentric circles, or a pebble in a pond. You just jump in, but a bit closer every time. Like I said, I'm still learning now. I'm always learning. There's always something that will just sort of drag me one way, and I'll be like, wow, I've never seen that before, and boom, I'll be off. But it'll connect up to everything else. It's crazy. Yeah.
Do you find a lot of the, because you said there about the circles coming back round again, do you find a lot of the subjects that you've looked into, and you said it, from paranormal to aliens to everything else, it all seems to link in and come back round again. Do you find that happens a lot now with the subjects that you're researching?
Yeah.
It could come into something else, or it...
A heck of a lot. I mean, when I first started out, I was 14 and just starting off with the paranormal, because the house that we had was, I mean, really haunted, really, really haunted. So I wanted to find out why and what was going on. And then as I was researching that, one of my friends started going on about a UFO encounter he had. So I'm like, oh, right. And as soon as he started talking about stuff that was going on, it just clicked in my head. Hold on, that sounds like something I've seen here in the paranormal, you know, with the demonology side of things, and the way that they manifest and turn up, come through walls, they appear as shadow, they'll just disappear in the blink of an eye, or they'll turn into an orb. Yeah, and you can see that in ufology. Right, I think some of you got UFOs are alloys, human made. Those are the more nuts and bolts craft, but the lights, just the light orbs that people see in the sky. Yeah, if you watch them, look, I mean, there's videos everywhere, but if you watch them, when they start dimming out, there's no structure behind them. It's just a light. You know what I mean? It looks solid, and then it doesn't. Yeah, and that's exactly how our ghost or a demon will present itself. Yeah, it'll come through as looking solid, and then all of a sudden it'll you'll be able to see through it, or there'll be an aspect of it that you can't. You know, it's just like, wait a minute, that's a bit wrong. Yeah, and UFOs are the same. I think with the UFO thing, it's more. You can sort of put the spiritual side of things and the interdimensional side of things into one box, yeah. And the aliens sort of, well, I wouldn't say they were aliens. I said they were more, like I said, interdimensional beings, but they all fit in that same box. You just slot them in there, and then everything opens up from that point. Yeah, as soon as you do that, you've got the link to the paranormal here, and then that just jumps straight into your religious side of things, and they describe perfectly in every single religious text, just in a slightly different way, the same sort of encounters and the same sort of stories that likely been passed down from generation to generation, word of mouth, but they all describe the same thing, just in a slightly different sort of allegory. And it's always these beings will turn up. They won't just appear in a ship, you know, they'll be there instantly. yeah, and say it's an angel or something like that, they'll be there in front of them. Yeah, there's only a couple of times where someone's described what looks like a ship, and that's Ezekiel, Ezekiel's wheel, or there's another one in Yahweh when he's turning up to the tabernacle. They've just defeated Jericho, and he comes down into the tent, but he comes down in fire and brimstone and everything else. And it just sounds like some sort of aircraft landing, if you get what I mean. But it also makes Yahweh sound like a dragon, which is another thing. But yeah,
this is what I love about you. You've got so much knowledge, and it just keeps going. I mean, I've been on a couple of chats with you on Telegram, and you could just sit there for hours listening to you. And when people they come in and they ask you something, and then you'll answer that for them, and then you'll lead them down another way, and you'll go, well, have you looked at this? I mean, it's phenomenal, mate. It's absolutely phenomenal. And right now, we've only talked for a couple of minutes about paranormal UFOs, about how you started getting into this. But seriously, mate, your knowledge is so widespread on all things. So here's a question for you then. How have you found the connections between what you first started looking into, the paranormal UFO side of things? When did you start? Government leaders, mainstream, all that kind of thing, because I've heard you talk about that too.
Yeah.
Especially with the Hatman vids.
Oh yeah, I mean that I've got a good one coming up with the next one in that series. I won't spoil it, but basically it all ties back to your ancient history and your religious texts, yeah, and that draws you in through the secret societies, into the political structure, back into the secret societies and onward, yeah, and it's from that really truly ancient history and the religious side of things. They're both basically the Old Testament or the Torah is based, like I said, it's based on word of mouth stories, and these stories, I mean, they're really ancient. You get like the Exodus story and the flood myths. They're based on like 8 or 9 different sort of stories going back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And it's like 8 or 9 different floods, and after each flood, there's a migration somewhere. Yeah, and these, like I said, these lead into your religion, and this is where all your religious basis starts. Is with these stories, and they're then used to, they sort of mixed with allegory to make a moral sort of, give people an idea of how to act morally, yeah, through these ancient stories. But through this religion, you get, like I said, the Vatican and stuff like that, the rabbinical orders in Judaism, or the you get Muhammad and stuff, and that especially with Judaism and Islam, they have a very sort of political basis to them, as well as a religious basis. Yeah. So that, like I said, takes you into the political structure after that, from places like the Vatican and blah blah blah, and then you get your political ideas, you get your rulership, which used to be priests at one point. They were high priests, and then got slowly turned into kings, and then you get your revolutions that make your parliaments and everything else, and that gives you all your politicians. And at first they start working for you, and then all of a sudden they start getting more and more corrupted. They get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they slowly feed into, again, more secret societies that are higher up. I mean, people go on about the Freemasons like there's no tomorrow, but it's essentially a boys' club. Yeah, that's all it is, and they'll just pick certain guys out of that boys' club that fit, certain psychological traits, normally psychopaths, because they're the best ones for running operations and stuff. And then they feed into another secret society that feeds into another. Eventually, you get towards the pinnacle of things, and this is something I've learned sort of very recently, that there's actually 3 families that are at the top, and there's a sort of numerology to it. It's, the Trinity, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, in ancient times, that was father, mother, child. Yeah. There's always a father and mother and a child aspect in all religions, all ancient religions. And that's, strangely enough, what the adhere more to traditional sort of aspects of our religious aspects in our family life and everything else, and try and steer us away from it, because it centralizes their power, if you get what I mean. And it's, when you get to the top, there's a father family, mother family, child family, yeah, and they run that can be interchanged with mind, body, and spirit, yeah. So that's your thinking head, your body, which is your emotional center, and then your spirit, which is your spirit, obviously, and then that goes into legal, religious, and finance. Yeah, this is why you've got only three cities in the whole world, yeah, that are states within a state, and that's Washington DC, which is your legal center, your judicial center, yeah, and the military center to enforce it. Yeah, you get your financial center, which is the UK, City of London. Yeah. It's always been that. If anyone tells you anything else, they're talking out the bum. It's always been Britain that's been the financial hub of the world, and always will be, probably, until we get them out. And then you have the religious centre, which is Rome, Vatican. Yeah, and it's from those three sort of essential pillars of society is what they are. You need a legal structure, a financial structure, and a religious structure to keep a sort of a society bonded together. You know what I mean? Keep it together. And it's from those three pillars that everything else comes out. So you get all your education, all your police forces, all your science, everything stemming out from those three pillars. And that's how they can control the world, just through those three key aspects. But once you learn that, then you start learning more about the way they structure their religion, what they believe in, and everything else. And that's the hard bit. That's the hard bit. Working out who they are is even harder. But
that was going to be my next question. That is obviously the next question to you. Who are these three families?
Right. Well, there's the head of the Merovingian line, which is the Pisces family. That's the head. That's the controlling head. And this is something that a lot of people have discounted or ignored, because they're more obsessed with the Rothschild side of things and the sort of Judean aspects side of things, which is it's wrong. Yeah, it is. For a start, the Rothschilds aren't even from that heritage. Once you work that out, it's like, oh my God, what's going on? But the Pisces are descendants of French royalty. So the legend goes, whether it's true or not. When Louis XVI was about to get his head chopped off, basically, he sent his son over to George III. He begged him to take his son in, because he said, there's something special about him. I want you to take him. And surprisingly, he did. And we know this through letters in the British National Library. They're still there. You know what I mean? But he sent him across with his. It was sort of the child's bodyguard, but not, if you get what I mean. He was called a guy by the name of Daniel Pisces. And he sent him over with young King Louis to George III to basically hide him. He stayed there till he was about 19 years old, and then when George took to him, apparently like a duck to water, absolutely loved him to bits. And when he wanted to leave and discover the world, he sent him with his own boat, a shed load of gold, and a plantation in Georgia, and said, "Go and have fun. You know, we'll leave you there." By I'll say about 1890. Well, I missed a bit out actually. When they got to the shores of America, it was just after the Russian Revolution, which was roughly around 1792, I think, something like that. They reached the shores of America. There were still French soldiers over there that were still quite bitter about the royal family. So young King Louis and Daniel Pisces decided to swap names, yeah. And the original Daniel Pisces, the bodyguard, he set up a decoy family, if you will. And this decoy family goes by the name of Pisces and Bowles constantly. It constantly changes, yeah. And left
Did you say Parker and Bowles?
No, just Bowles. But Camilla Parker Bowles is actually related to that side, believe it or not.
That's why I just asked you that. I thought, did you say Parker and Bowles? There we go.
she's related to the decoy side of the family. Yeah, this is something that a lot of people get mixed up with. Is because they run so concurrent together and so closely together, and have done since they arrived in America. They equate a lot of the stuff that sort of diverts you away from the Pisces with the actual decoy line. It actually does its job very well. Yeah, extremely well. But this is what they did anyway when they got to America. By 18, I'll give you the short version, it's easier. By 1890, Lewis Cass Picer, he owned every railroad company, every bank, everything in America. He basically owned America by that point, and he set his sights on the UK. He had a little bit of a beef with the Rothschilds. This was mostly due to the Rothschilds having sort of financial ties in the French Revolution. Yeah, that's as far as from what I could work out. So this is sort of speculation, but I think he wanted to take the Rothschilds' fortune to punish them for what they did to his dad. Basically, I mean that could be wrong, but by 1920 he owned the US Stock Exchange and the UK Stock Exchange. And at that time, in 1920, that's all you needed, just them two. 95% of the world's saleable stock bonds, which are you get 50,000 when you set up a company, yeah, a publicly traded company. And they own 45,000 of those as soon as they come out. And then all your shares from that are built out of those 5,000. They own 95% of every single company. So they literally own the world, the Pisces. And have done since 1920. The Rothschilds.
What's the name you're saying there? They're called the Picers.
Picer. Payseur. Yeah, Picer. Yeah. Like I said, it's French, but it's basically his bodyguard's name. Yeah, or it was his bodyguard's name back in the 1700s. Okay. And he's stuck with it ever since. And like I said, there's two lines. There's the decoy line, which is who Camilla Parker Bowles is related to, and then there's the other line, which is the French royal family line. Yeah, and they're there's a funny thing with the French. The Merovingian bloodlines, it's the French that are considered the purest. Yeah, because it trails all the way back to Charlemagne. Yeah, Charlemagne the Frank in the 11th century, and he started the French Merovingian line, and all of them sort of spread out from there and started taking over all the Scandinavian royal families. Yeah, the Swedish ones, the Finns, the Norwegians, and then you work their way around to Denmark. Not so much Denmark these days, but then they moved into Switzerland and started getting the family lines into Switzerland and all the Swiss nobility. And then they sort of bonded together very quite early on with the Venetian bankers. Yeah, back in I think it was the 12th, 13th century, the Venetian and Genoan bankers basically invented our banking system as we see it today, and Admiralty law. Yeah, and they could see the benefits of being with the Merovingians, the Merovingian lines, and sort of molded the two families together. So, so they spread out all over Europe. There's only a few families really in each of those Scandinavian nations and the Italian nations that are still Merovingian and still class themselves as Merovingian, and they're, like I said, the Picers are the head of that bloodline. They see themselves as above everyone else. There's another family that the descendants of Iraqi Jews called the Sassoons, and the Sassoons have married into both the Rothschild family and the Merovingian lines by I think it was through one of the I think it's one of the Medicis or the Orsini's about a century and a half ago. So now they're not really that Jewish anymore, if you know what I mean. But somehow they're the two highest rabbis in Israel. They're also their family's also been the advisor to every single Israeli president since it was set up. And they're a really sort of powerful family. They called them at one point the Rothschilds of the East, yeah, because they literally owned the opium trade, yeah, and have done since 1820. So all of Afghanistan was to get the Afghans to start growing poppies again so they could carry on making money, yeah. The same with the Vietnam War. I mean, you probably heard all the talk about the CIA wanting it for the poppy fields, yeah, in Vietnam. Well, that was mostly to do again with the assassins. The Viet Cong didn't want to grow poppies, yeah, like the Taliban didn't want to grow poppies. And as soon as they got rid of them, they're instantly back to growing opium poppies again, yeah. And they spread it out all over the Orient, and now it's all over the world. So you get the Sassoons, which because of the youngest family line in that sort of trinity, they're the spiritual side. I think this is why they go into the sort of rabbinical side of things, yeah, these days, because of this religious aspect. You also control the Vatican, believe it or not. You then get the Rothschilds, which are obviously finance, but they're not as rich as you think they are. They basically manage the money for the Pisces.
Oh, I can't hear you, Sam. Oh, it's gone mute. That was like watching a movie and it cut right at the end. Or you're like, tell me the next bit, what's going on? Just while Sam was sorting his headphones out, guys, this is what I'm talking about. This guy is full of knowledge. We started on one thing and it's just straight into it. This is why I wanted this guy on for the first one. I mean, he absolutely smashes the info. He really does. And I hope he picks up exactly where he left off there. Yeah.
Blimey neck.
Sam, that was epic, man. So do you remember where you stopped? Because that was like I was watching some kind of TV series or a box set, and it ended right. And you're like, what? Don't end there. What are you doing?
I think I got to the Rothschilds and how they fit in, didn't I?
Yeah, you said that that other family were the Rothschilds of the East, and they were building it all up. They had the stock market and the London Exchange in the 1920s.
The Pisces are the ones that have both. And
I just like to say, this started with paranormal and aliens. And then went, this is what I love about you.
Yeah. Well, this is it. Yeah, this is what I mean. This is it. This is how it spreads out over that time. Because, I mean, the Merovingian lines go back really far. I mean, really far. Not just at Charlemagne. Charlemagne was the one that established them as royalty, really, more than anything. But the actual Merovingian lines stretch back even further than that. And like I said, they sort of come round from Scandinavia, really, and round back down into Ukraine, which is another place, into Arata. And from Arata, you get all the Sumerian, basically every single culture you see on the Far East and in the Middle East, and pretty much the Mediterranean coast are all from Arata, yeah, about 20,000 years ago, and then they created the Atlanteans, which were over, I believe, near Mauritania. I really do. Some people say they're in the Azores. Well, Randall Carlson does, but if it wasn't for some LiDAR scans that were done a couple of years back, I would have gone for the Azores. But the LiDAR scans of the Eye of Africa, you can see buildings, yeah. And when you look at the way Plato describes Atlantis, having a flat plain in front of it that stretches hundreds of miles down into the sea, and you've got the concentric rings of the Atlantean capital, with cliffs behind it, and you know there's 4 rivers that flow into it, and there's a freshwater well in the middle of the main Atlantean city, and you look at the Eye of Africa, called the Rikat structure, and it fits the bill. It's got the cliffs behind it. It's got ancient riverbeds that would have gone into waterfalls that fall in behind it. It's got the concentric rings, and everyone says are natural, but they tend to forget that people tend to sort of adapt things to use. Yeah, they don't necessarily have had to build those concentric rings themselves. They could have used what was already there, which I believe they did with the Ricat structure. But everything just fits it. There's a fresh water well in the middle of it. They know that. And interestingly enough, for 400 miles, all the way down to the Atlantic on the Mauritanian coast, every time someone drills a well, it's always salt water that they get. Yeah, all the time. There's seashells stretching 400 miles inland. Yeah, in Mauritania. There's sun-bleached whale bones. Yeah, in the middle of the desert. Yeah, they're not fossilized, they're sun-bleached, which means they're quite young. Yeah, they've obviously died very quickly. God knows how they've got there. If it didn't used to be an inland sea, it's something that scientists can't explain. I think it really bugs them. But yeah, for 400 miles inland, all the way up to the Ricat structure, it's just marine life, ancient marine life, just in the middle of the desert, which is just really strange. And from there you get Samaria and everywhere else. But the Eratons stretch.
Yeah. What's their explanations for that, Sam? What's their explanations?
Well, they say the whale bones, the whale skeletons in the middle of the desert, they say are fossilized. Yeah. The thing is with fossilization, it turns things to stone. Yeah. To do that, you need pressure and heat, so they need to be underground, and these are just on top of the sand. Yeah. Every time there's a sandstorm in the middle of that desert, it'll reveal something else. You know what I mean? It's been under a dune for a few thousand years. Yeah. But they try and say that it's basically fossilized. They're not fossilized. They're sun bleached. They're bright white. The seashells, the best explanation, and best by I mean just most hilarious and completely implausible, was an ancient culture took all those seashells from the shore and started putting them out. There's billions of them. It's like, shut up. These people are just morons. Just really are. But you get like sort of salt flats in the middle of the desert as well. But I mean, huge salt flats that they look like snow will cover a mountain, on the sand dunes. I mean, these sand dunes are like 400 feet high, you know what I mean? And they've got like salt flats over the top of them. Yeah, and that can only come from there being a high amount of sort of salt under the sand itself. Yeah, it just slowly comes up through evaporation and pressure as it pushes it up and then dries out. Yeah, so there's every indication that all that was an ancient seabed. Now, the contention with a lot of it is the age. When was it part of the sea and when wasn't it? Now, I don't know if you've heard of Herodotus. He was an ancient Greek philosopher who was also classed as the father of history. He basically was the first one to record it and start writing it down. And there's ancient maps drawn by him that he's got from even more ancient maps of Africa being split in two by a sea. Yeah, a literal sea going from the Mediterranean down into the Atlantic, and it goes underneath the Sahara. Now, where the Ricat structure is, that would have been an island sort of archipelago, yeah? Where these three rings are would have been rings of water, rings of land, rings of water, rings of land, which is the way Plato described Atlantis, yeah? And then something happened to make the land beneath the sea sort of rise up in a phenomenon called subduction, yeah, which is basically where something will, say like you hit a balloon on one side and you've got the sort of fluid inside that balloon, you hit it on one side, it'll push out of the other if you hit it hard enough, yeah. Well, that's basically what subduction is. Something's hit the earth, and where it's hit it at that angle where it's pushed that piece of land underneath the Ricat and Mauritania up, yeah, and that's got rid of the sea there and probably killed off, the Sahara and everything else because it was lush forest. Yeah. But some people say, well, it happened 10,500 years ago, which is when Graham Hancock has the pyramids being built. I think they're older than that, but it's around, I suppose. But he says a cometary impact. Now, that could have happened. They found a crater in Greenland that fits the bill, but it's the wrong angle for that sea. So then you have to go even further back and even further back and even further back. So, oh crap! How old it is exactly, I'm not entirely sure. I believe though that the Eratans were likely the progenitor of the Atlanteans, and the Eratans are an ancient civilization that were in Ukraine, along the Black Sea coast of Ukraine. Yeah, this is what my Epics was, and Alien Tech sort of series has been about, is primarily about Ukraine at the moment, but we've moved out thanks to Thumper. We've got so many sites around the Black Sea, it's unbelievable. But they were primarily along that coast, and northern Turkey, Georgia around this side, the southeastern tip of Russia, then Ukraine, the Ukrainian Black Sea coast, all of Ukraine pretty much, and then you get Bulgaria and Romania after that, and Moldova, all the way around, and a bit of Greece. All of that Black Sea area was a Ratan country. Yeah, that's where that civilization built up. At the moment, mainstream science is trying to split them all up into separate sort of separate civilizations. Yeah, when you look at certain aspects of the architecture, the way they're placed, the stuff that they look at, the stuff that the art that they did, and everything else, they all fit together really well. Göbekli Tepe is another one. Yeah, that's probably part of the Eratan civilization. It was probably them that buried it. Yeah, you get, like I said, the Eratan capital city on the other side that was thought to be a separate civilization called Trapalia, which was on the southwest coast of Ukraine, well, in the Donbass region of Mariupol. And that's where the capital city was, because it linked up to the sea. Interestingly enough, they used to make their cities in concentric rings, yeah, all the settlements, even the big cities. And this is what got me thinking about them being the fathers of the Atlanteans after the Black Sea basin filled up, yeah. But there's so much weird stuff going on around there as well, and so just the technology that they've used or have had to have used is mind-blowing for some of the stuff that we found. Thumper, like I said earlier, Thumper found something the other day in Georgia that just blew my mind. I'd seen it before and put it in the to-do pile in my mind. You know what I mean? We'll come back to that later. I wish I'd learned more about it at the time, because it's absolutely stunning. And that's one of just hundreds of ancient sites going all the way around the Black Sea. And there's at least one in every single nation going all the way around. Yeah, at least one. The majority of them have like 10, 12, 15, you know what I mean? It's just stunning. And they all link together. Yeah, you could just see it all over the place. Which brings me back to the technology. This is why Russia's in Ukraine, I think. And this started off with, what started me on this was talk of the when the Allies invaded Iraq, they went straight for Baghdad Museum, went straight down into the vaults, ignored the top floor, and took everything out, all of it out. Yeah. So I was thinking, well, what are they looking for? And the more you look into the Sumerians and their culture and their mythology and their history, it's crazy. They talk about aliens, but I don't think they were aliens. Yeah, I think they were very likely the remnants of the Errata that fooled them into thinking they were aliens because of the technology they were using. But they talk about ships flying in the air, and like the gods coming down to see them from these sort of craft in the air, and cracking the earth with just a staff, yeah, and all sorts of just really weird sort of stuff that, in some ways, they're probably struggling to describe what they're seeing, yeah. But in others, it could literally be that. The thing with Ukraine though that really got me was 2018. This guy, he'd had a cuneiform tablet that he'd bought from an auction house in 2005, I think, not realizing it was the original tablet, and it was it's called the Gilgamesh Dream Tablet, yeah, which, if you know about the Epic of Gilgamesh, he was an ancient Sumerian king from about 6,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago, maybe more. And he describes, he's basically looking for the secret to immortality from a guy called Utnapishtim, that is basically the biblical Noah. Yeah. This is where all the legends derive from, is this one guy. It was called Utnapishtim by the Sumerians, called Atrahasis by the Babylonians. He's called several names all over the world. But he talks about traveling to a place. This is where I got Aratta from. Yeah, traveling to Aratta, the ruins of Aratta. Now, he describes it already as being extremely old when he gets there. Yeah, and he sleeps outside the gates to a garden where Utnapishtim lives. And I'm sat there and I'm thinking, gates. Hold on, right? Okay, what's he thinking of there? Yeah. After he opens the gate, he decides he's going to have a rest before he goes in. And after about an hour or two, and he's starting to doze off, this is where he dreams about 3 Aratan kings coming out of the gates, yeah, the spirits of these Aratan kings, and attacking him, turning into lions and attacking him. And of course, he fights them off, and dead heroic and everything else. And then goes, right, because he's dead angry, and goes straight through these gates. And he goes from the ruins of these gates straight into sort of like a black, it says it's a black tunnel. There's like I've forgotten how he describes it, but there's a white light at the end, which sounds a lot like near death or a dimensional portal side of things. And he goes through and he's in this garden, yeah, this miraculous garden. Now, this started making me think about dimensional portals, yeah. So, what technology would they use to make these portals? How would they do it? Yeah, what would they use? I started thinking about CERN, and I thought, well, yeah, that's quite a good idea. Would it be that big? Who knows? It could be a smaller version. But the weird thing is, when Putin invaded Ukraine, one of the first places he went was Chernobyl. Yeah, straight away. He jumped over the Belarusian border and invaded, like, surrounded Chernobyl. But he headed straight for Mariupol and straight to a steelworks called Azovstal. Yeah, that it's the size of a city. This place, it's absolutely massive. Yeah, huge. But it's got 3 layers of catacombs beneath it that are exactly the same size. Right. This place just so happens to be right slap bang on where the Aratan capital was, yeah, back in antiquity. And he went straight for there. And then you've got Azov Brigade sort of under siege under there, but they're getting loads and loads of computer equipment that is getting allowed through, yeah. Why are they allowing computer equipment through when they're under siege? Yeah, the Russians have got them under siege outside. Yeah, these are the enemy, but they're letting them have computer equipment. What's that for? Not just any computer equipment, though. Elon Musk's blooming Starlink monitor equipment and, yeah, high-end PCs and everything else. So it's like, well, what's going on there? Yeah. Then, right, before the Russians got there, they were meant to have emptied out all the civilians. Yeah. There was meant to be no civilians working there at all for about a week or 2. Yeah. All of a sudden, they're saying, you need to stop shelling because you're going to injure our civilians that are in here. What civilians? When did they get there? Yeah. You know, people have been flown in by helicopter. A lot of people have been speculating it's NATO, NATO soldiers trying to train Azov. But why would the Russians still be letting them through then? Yeah, if they were NATO training the soldiers. Don't make any sense. Well, I think he's a scientist. Yeah. The Azov there basically is the hired muscle to stop the scientists from speaking out. And if they go, go out of line, they'll, check them out. Yeah. But the Russians are there to keep the Azovs in check. Yeah, that's the only way it made sense to me. Okay? But then you get every single sort of city that they've deliberately just gone from the Donbass. Yeah, like he's had 8 years to do this, Putin. Yeah, and all of a sudden he decides now. Yeah, a couple of years after they find that dream tablet that describes Arata. Yeah, all of a sudden he's over there. One of the first places, like I said, is Chernobyl, the exclusion zone. Not just the Chernobyl structure, but the entire exclusion zone. And that, when I heard this dark journalist interview with Joseph Farrell, and they were going on about A17 and Chernobyl, with Ghislaine Maxwell mentioning it in this interview, she said, the food's like something out of Chernobyl, it looks disgusting, yeah. And she has an imaginary friend called A17, right? And I'm sat there and I'm thinking, Chernobyl, A17. So, the thing with Chernobyl and Pripyat is I've heard loads and loads of urban legends about it. And the first few chapters in my book, Legion Saga, yeah, are based in Pripyat. Yeah, and it's all because of those urban legends. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, right, There's all those urban legends, A17, Chernobyl, all the stuff that were going on there. So I started looking at Chernobyl, yeah, and all the surrounding area, not just Pripyat, which is what most people sort of concentrate on. I found out there's a green band in the exclusion zone. There's a green, yellow, and red band, yeah, of danger, how dangerous the radiation is. And the green band is lettered A, yeah, designated A sector, and then B sector is the yellow section, and then C sector is the red one, the most radioactive. And all in this A band is loads and loads of weird sort of old Soviet buildings and factories and Duga-1 radar station, which was an over-the-horizon radar station that they called the Woodpecker, yeah, all these ham radio enthusiasts, because they could pick it up from America, this thing going, yeah. Next to that is it's about 10 miles, 20 miles up from Duga-1 is a missile silo, right? Well, they say it's a missile silo, but I can't see any missile sort of installations or anything that would have been a missile installation. But apparently this bunker is huge, yeah. It's, again, 3-leveled, yeah, and it spreads out for nearly a mile in all directions, right, this place. In between those three, remember, right, this is the least radioactive area, right? Just keep that in mind. Slap bang in the middle is a forest, yeah, called the Red Forest, right? That place was decimated, yeah. All the trees are dead, yeah. Every single one of them are just completely just dead, yeah. And they say the radiation killed them. Yeah, in the place with the highest radiation band, all the trees are alive. Yeah, so that made me suspicious for a start, right? Just next to that, about 2 miles away, is a village called Kapachi. Yeah, that they buried. They buried this village, right? Completely buried it. I say completely. There's 4 buildings in key areas. Yeah, there's a school up here. Yeah, there's a police station, a town hall, and a high school. Yeah, it's like kindergarten, high school, town hall, and police station. All of these 3 buildings, yeah, have multi-layered basements that go down, right? So they, to me, look like access points, if you get what I mean. They've kept them there so they can still have access to whatever's underground, yeah, behind those sort of basement walls in those buildings. They'd want to limit the amount of people that are in that town, yeah, or them accidentally coming across it when they're trying to extend the basement, because a lot of people do that in that sort of area, you know what I mean? They keep digging down and building more basements in the houses. So they don't want anyone breaking through that, so that limits that. And then they can limit the amount of people that go into these areas. And then I found out that that area has probably the largest underground tunnel and chamber complex in the whole of Ukraine, possibly in the whole of Europe, yeah? Just that whole exclusion area. I mean, it's vast, absolutely massive, and it covers it all. Yeah, it's one of the things they found out when they were trying to dig the bunkers for Chernobyl. Yeah, the actual Chernobyl sort of nuclear bunkers for people who couldn't get away fast enough. Incidentally, Putin put 30 Ukrainian soldiers in there that were actually guarding the area at the time. He put them all into that bunker, and they were talking about really strange experiences while they were in there, and spiritual, really sort of demonically spiritual sort of things coming out of the dark, trying to get at everything. Yeah, and that really got my mind going then, you know. But the whole of Ukraine is just absolutely just liquid. From there you spread out. You've got Odessa at the bottom with another 3-layered sort of tunnel system below it that's acknowledged because someone found it accidentally, and then you had to acknowledge that one there. There's the one in Mariupol, like I said, under Azovstal. Further around, there's one under Donetsk that some coal miners, they stumbled across it, and when they did, they found this. They say it's 200 million years old, a year old. 200 million year old sort of wheel like structure, and it looked like a wheel. Yeah. As soon as they found that, all these archaeologists came down, government sanctioned archaeologists. No, leave it there. You can't take it out because of the structure of the wall and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then close the area off. Yeah. You're not digging there anymore. And they do this every time. It's a common occurrence where they'll find an ancient mine shaft that really shouldn't be there when they're digging for gold or anything. Yeah. Same as in South Africa and everywhere else. And all of a sudden, the army will come in, or the state-sponsored archaeologists will come in, boom, close it off. You're not using that mine anymore. It doesn't matter how much gold is in it or anything, boom, you're gone. Yeah, don't go there. One thing that got me was a picture Thumper sent me last week, and it was of the Black Sea. First of all, he showed me a strip mine, just a regular strip mine, and like the circles concentric going all the way down into this hole, And he says, right, it's in that. I said, yeah. He said, right, look at this. And he showed it me, and I'm like, is that what I'm thinking? He said, yeah, that's the Black Sea. Yeah, and it's exactly the same, upstage. And I'm like, okay, I see where you're going with this, yeah. You got Lake Baikal that's not very far away that does exactly the same, staggered all the way down, yeah. And then you read the Lost Book of Enki, and it tells you all there. Yeah, we went there, we mined loads of other stuff. We were growing crops, like by the bucket load, everything. And I'm like, right, this just confirms everything now. Yeah, it really does. And he more and more sources. That's what I mean. That's the exciting thing about it, because as soon as you find that discovery, it's like, yes, it's right. We're getting somewhere. And it's just been like that since I started with this epics wars and maybe alien tech. It's just been one discovery after another, and it all confirms more and more that there was a massive ancient culture there. And you were technological, definitely technological. There's no doubt about it. There really isn't, especially with what we found in Georgia, but we're keeping that on the quiet for a bit. Yeah, I mean, that just blew me away.
This is what I love about you, Sam. I love how we've started on one thing, we've gone through another thing, you've covered so many things. I mean, to be fair, I wanted to talk about quite a lot of different things that you cover, including corruption, the government, the political stuff, the financial stuff, but I don't think we're going to be able to do that on one without making this a 4-hour box set, a 5-hour box set. But I'm being genuinely serious here. I would love to get you back on again. And discuss other things as well, Sam. To be fair, though, I want to kind of stop it soon, because I want to provide the links for everything you're talking about here, because I've been interested in your Ukraine videos because you've been discovering stuff. I mean, I didn't even know about Ararat and all these things that you've brought to the table. But there's definitely something going on there, because especially what you said there about civilians coming in, Russians coming in, they're protecting these ones, the Azov in there. There's so many inconsistencies from, I mean, we all know that anyway with what's going on in Ukraine. It's not as black and white as we say, as what they'd like.
It's just strange how they just stopped. It's just, any normal leader would take them in and they carry on advancing until they got to the main capital and then take that over, and it'll just, the actual control will flood out from there. Yeah. After they've taking over, a certain amount of territory, they go to the capital, boom, depending on how far it's in, But with the way they've done it just stopped, and it's like, well, okay, he did say he was going to do that, but why was he going to do that? Yeah,
Sam, this could go on for hours, and I really want you to come back on again, mate. I really, really do, and I wanted you to talk more about the obvious things, the COVID, the vaccines, the government, the corruption, and all that side. And I think that if we had about another 2-3 hours, we would definitely get down that route. But your knowledge it's beyond anything. And, I'm really glad that you came on, and I'm really, really honoured that you came on, and definitely want you on again, mate.
I'm honoured, mate. I think it will, mate. I think it will. The way you described it, I think it's a really good idea. No one else does that, with ordinary people as well. Yeah, it's just I think that'll be the clincher. Just seeing
we are ordinary people, really. We've just got different skills and different things we do, but I definitely want to get some everyday people on here to talk about what their lives are about.
That's what I mean. The non-content creators, the ones that, because I think that's what's missing. That's something that I've noticed doing the live chats on Telegram. It's just the people that you talk to. They may not make content, they may not post a lot, but the knowledge is phenomenal. Yeah, it really is. And I love speaking to them, because you learn off them and they learn off you, and it's fantastic. I love doing those. Yeah,
100%. And I hope people watch this and learn off you. And at the end of this, I'll put all your links to your channels. I'll put your links to everything. Just very quickly as well, I will say to people, I have posted it on Open Media One channel on Telegram, but do check out Sam's vid that's blowing up, where he's got those couple of scientists, Nobel laureate people talking about climate change as well.
I can't believe how that's took off.
It's blowing up. And my friend said to me the other day, he said, basically, you've got a bag now full of woke stuff which hasn't worked. The woke stuff's going out the window. No one's interested. And climate change is fast going in there as well. So
it's the mindset of people.
Just timely.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you can tell it's all fake. Yeah, just everything they come out with. It's just, I mean, we've known for years, yeah, but it's seeing other people just suddenly twig. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, there we go. That's, again, like I said, that's what gives me hope. Yeah, just that one person. Yeah, because then they'll do it to someone else and someone else.
People like yourself, Sam, because I've never met anybody who dissects information, researches it as much as you, and it's so widespread. I mean, today we've talked about paranormal, UFO, the families that run the world, the history behind that, underground cities, underground chambers, Ukraine, and that is literally, I'd say maybe only 5-10% of what you provide and the info you provide. And you're one of the go-to people for me when I'm looking for stuff, and I'm being serious. You know, I'll always run something by you or look on your channel to see what info you've got on there about it, because you're a thorough researcher and you're interested in this, which is, you know, it's infectious, and I like that. It's something that actually is infectious, not stuff that we've been battled with over the last couple of years. But yeah, it is infectious, and it's good what you do, Sam. And that's why I just wanted you to just roll today, and I definitely want you to come on again, mate. 100%, 100%.
I'd be happy to. Yeah.
If you will.
I mean, you do good stuff yourself, though.
Have you got anything you want to add? I talk myself, but listen. Sometimes it's good if you just let the guest talk as well. You know, sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
That knowledge was. We went on a journey. We've just been on a journey.
What can I say? I have an analogy. You've heard it before. Yeah, the flasher. Yeah, for the state that we're in at the moment, the time that we're in at the moment, and it goes like this. Think of the elite like a flasher that's been hiding behind a bush for years. Okay, it's been sat there waiting for his time. You know, hiding behind the bush, looking out every now and again to see if how many people come in. Still a bit nervous. Yeah, with his Mac and everything else. He's getting ready. Now, as this is going on, people are just walking on by. You know what I mean? Yeah, just not acknowledging him. Some of us have noticed him. Yeah, kept an eye on him. This elite flasher. Until the day comes, and all of a sudden he jumps out from behind the bush with his Mac open and his todger, waving in the wind. Yeah. Now, some people are looking away still, walking past, ignoring him, just trying to ignore the fact that just running off. Some people stood there pointing and laughing. They've seen him, but they're not quite sure how to process it. Some of us are running over with baseball bats to do him in. Yeah. Now, we're at the point now where those people that were laughing, pointing and laughing, and thought, hold on, that's a bit of a pervy weirdo over there. We better sort him out. So they've joined us. Yeah. We're now at the stage where those people that were walking by have started joining us. Yeah. And this is why they're losing, because they're joining in. All the ones that were asleep. Yeah. The vast majority of them are starting to wake up. And that's where we're at the moment. Yeah. They're just about to go over and give the flasher a good kicking.
Bravo, Sam. Bravo. I love it. And that's where we're going to end. Everybody, follow Sam Fisher Data Drops. Get onto the Telegram channel, Sam Fisher Data Drops. I'm going to share his YouTube. I'm going to share his other things he does with his music as well, his gaming. And definitely get on Telegram, Sam Fisher Data Drops, because that's where a lot of info is. And Sam,
link down there.
Thank you so much.
No worries. You're welcome, mate. We're blinding.
Thank you, mate. Absolutely brilliant. And I look forward to the next one with you. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam Fisher, everyone.